I'm Rajesh Kumar here. Got this opportunity to moderate the expert panels on an interesting topic on usage of data analytics in the area of customer service and experience. We have with us Nilesh from Shadi.com, Rakesh Gupta from Panasonic, Uday Bhosale from Hamilton, and Ankit Goenka from Bajaj Allianz General Insurance. Let's welcome them all. And yep, as we say, data is the new gold. That's the saying going on for the last a decade or so. So data is actually being used by one and everyone to at least know the customers, and it also comes out of in a way from the customer's experience as well. Customers, when they expect a particular service from their service provider, they expect you to know a bit about them before the conversation starts. It cannot just start on a raw plate. Otherwise, it becomes a start of the relationship. What customers think is they already have a relationship with us, and the conversation should pick up from a thread which he had left earlier as well. So, here, let's talk about how do we use data analytics in our day-to-day life in the area of customer service and experience. So, my first panelist, I'd like to ask from Nilesh from Shadi.com. It's an interesting area. In the service as customized as matchmaking, you're considered to be a Pandit as well. What is the role of the predictive analytics and machine learning in shaping the customer experience in your industry and to support customer strategy? How does the data-driven insight affect customer satisfaction in your company, Nilesh?
Thank you, Rajesh. Good morning, everybody. Uh, when we were discussing outside, I told you that people generally feel when I tell them that I work for Shadi.com, people generally feel that we have an army of pundits sitting in some contact center and they are actually doing matchmaking by matching the Janam Patris, but that is not how it happens. I keep telling people that we are a tech company and we use technology to do matchmaking. So, as you rightly said that, it is the business model is as customizable as it can be. I would rather say it is as sensitive as it can be because, a lot of emotions are attached there. And, I would like to give you one example from our business where we are using machine learning and data analytics. So, yeah, because, as you rightly said, data is the new gold. So, data is everything for us, particularly for Shadi, because, we are providing a platform based on whatever data we have, and people use that platform for doing matchmaking. That is how it happens in a nutshell. But as we acquire data almost on daily basis, uh, though we have certain checks and balances in place, but this data is acquired through various mediums, and obviously you are unable to actually figure out the authenticity of the person who is putting the profile there, right? And therefore you are likely to encounter some issue when you meet up with a person whom we are meeting for the first time on a platform, and you do not know that person otherwise. And this is where data analytics plays a very important role. So for all these years, what we have done is we have analyzed our data, and basis the because for us the entire life cycle of customer is data. Every behavior, every move that customer takes is a data for us. And because of that, we have plotted that data, and the system, as soon as customer registers his profile on our platform, the system immediately tags him or her as red, green, or orange. You know, basis the behavior that person has done on our platform. So green means the profile can get activated immediately. Red means the behavior is improper and therefore this profile cannot go on platform and needs to be blocked there itself. And orange is there is a suspicion on that profile and therefore that particular profile comes in manual queue, and then our agent actually contacts the person and understands all the details. If required, be asks for even ID proofs and everything. And if we are satisfied, then only the profile goes live. So this is how, and this is a machine learning model. So as more and more behaviors are getting captured, the model is getting more and more matured. So this is one use case where we are using data analytics and AI combined, and it is directly related to the security of our customers, and therefore it is very very important from the customer experience angle.
Nilesh, it was interesting, particularly in the area of the service industry, as sensitive and as emotional as say matchmaking. Data analytics does play a vital role. As we say, on an average, one person actually creates more than 50 digital footprints on a day-to-day life, knowingly or unknowingly. And no doubt, data just gets generated within the company itself, how he actually operates within the platform or outside of it, like social media. So, this is where the complexity arises. My next question is to Rakesh Gupta from Panasonic. Panasonic is a global brand and a diversified clientele across the world. How do you align unified customer experience analytics across the world in different markets? And what are the key challenges in adapting the metric to meet the varied cultural expectation? So it's a global kind of a scenario.
Good afternoon, Rakesh. I'm from Panasonic, the electrical arm of Panasonic, more commonly known as Anchor. Anchor by Panasonic. So we are globally known as Panasonic Electric Works. So anything and everything which is related to electrical construction material while building up, while doing up a construction. Now, as rightly mentioned by you, that being a global brand, it becomes very, versatile for us to manage the expectations and device platforms or the policies which can be fruitful or which can be useful across the global platforms. So for this, what we first we set up a global guidelines. That has been done across the organization, that there are some global guidelines which we need to follow while we do consumer interactions or while we listen to their requirements, fulfill their requirements, that sort of thing. This is the global, the tools which has been developed, or the organizations which have been in the space driving across the continents. Then we look at the localization of the interactions we have, because culture plays a very important role, and in organizations like us where multi-country is there, then the behavior of India may not be same as to the Middle East or as to European countries. So then we dive into finding out the cultural preferences of the consumers. How do they want us to interact with them? How do they want us to respond to them? Whether they, with across geographies, they need a bot to respond, or they need a human agent to respond. So for example, in India, we love to speak. हमको अच्छा लगता है कोई हमसे बात कर ले, कोई प्रॉब्लम सुन ले. So that sort of tools we have implemented in India, where we rely more on human touch when there is a consumer experience or consumer interaction is concerned. Besides that, we at Panasonic believe on continuous feedback. So we keep on giving feedbacks to our global teams that this is something which is working very well in India, and that horizontal deployment could be done at other locations. Or we see that this is not something which is being liked by our consumers at India. So let us look at another ways which we can feel. When you're continuation with your question which you asked, the challenges which we'll say, again the cultural bias that plays a very important role. The challenge which we face, can ये तो ना, sometimes our service center says कि सर ये तो जापानी स्टाइल है, आप यहाँ मत चलाओ, यहाँ नहीं होगा, यहाँ तो जो इलेक्ट्रिशियन है वो मिस्त्री है. So they may not be liking what we have done for them, or which has succeeded across the global for some other brands or other set of consumers. Then contextual understanding, what a consumer is coming to you for, whether he is going to matlab na coming to you for a buying behavior, or he is coming to you for a product which he already has some operational issues with that, or the product is not sufficing the requirement. So that's where we take a lot of data to analyze what is going best for that particular consumer in specific or a product specific. For example, in fans, so if you see exhaust ventilation fans runs very good at other parts of the world, but in India we believe on ceiling fans. So here we put a lot of focus on ceiling fans, not on the EV exhaust part, क्योंकि यहाँ पे घर एक दूसरे से इतने लगे हुए हैं, एग्जॉस्ट सक्सेसफुली नहीं होता. So ceiling fan is something. So we believe on global tools and then cultural adjustment to those tools. That's what we do at Panasonic.
So as we know, no doubt India has taken up very, very fast strides on data and data analytics and everything related to say, artificial intelligence or machine learning. India is taking a fast stride. But at the same time, we Indians as a culture are emotional. So the human touch that you spoke about does remain. And there has to be a balance between the data, analytics, driven decisions or conversation, and a human touch in our conversation with the clients. Thanks, Rakesh. Uday from Hamilton. It's an interesting question again. You are into FMCG sector, where the customer feedback and preferences can change in no time. They have plethora of companies to go to choose from. How does Hamilton Houseware leverages real-time data analytics to pace up with the evolving customer expectation? And that's to do with the market as such, the overall customer behavior.
Thank you, Rajesh, for that question. Good morning, everyone. My name is Uday Bhosale. I am from Hamilton. While Hamilton can't be considered as an FMCG brand, but it's definitely a consumer durables brand. And during my short stint currently, I've just joined, I have used data analytics, perform customer journey mapping, create processes, and basic stuff which we have done is to understand the customer behavior, customer patterns. For example, Hamilton is the brand which has multiple categories. Like if you know Milton, so there is Milton for thermosteel, there is appliances called Euroline, there is glassware called Trio, there is stationery brand called Claro. But as a customer, you won't understand these brands because you use bottles, you use appliances, right? So we have changed, we analyze customer data and we re-engineer the entire processes right at the call center, IVR, as well as the bots, and create a portal also where we clearly inform customers that what is Milton, is it a bottle? So we have given pictorial messages on the portal and WhatsApp for a customer to zoom in to what kind of product he might be using. If I ask him to select a Claro, he might not understand, but I show him a pen. If I show him a vector image of a bottle, he understands the brand, and the entire journey of raising a complaint, registering a product for warranty becomes easy. So we basically use data analytics to understand how the customer journey is flowing through the earlier flows. Based on his patterns where he's breaking off from the flow, we re-engineered the new journeys and created the new journeys, which is helping us to register more customers and reduce the time required to register complaints. Of course, apart from customer journey mapping, we use lots of data analytics in our supply chain processes because our products are sold across every nook and corner of the country, and to understand which products are moving, which new products have to be introduced, there is a data analytics team at SCM level, which is part of my team, which manages this interactions as well as the supply chain availability at various stores, at various counters. Let me also take this point, this opportunity to talk about data as such, right? Data, I used to report to one Colonel Ravi Gupta at Loyalty Amex, and he had a big signboard at his office which says, "In God we believe, rest all bring data to the table." So I think data is very important, and apart from just collecting data, what I've learned with my customer service background is QCA. I'm sure few of us who has experience with COPC would understand QCA. And I think every one of us, which I have been following with data analysis, is QCA, which is CUIKA, where C stands for data to be collected, U stands for ensuring data is usable, I stands for the data should have integrity, K stands for the data should be knowledgeable to everyone, and A stands for actionable, right? So all these points are very important when we analyze or we start on the data analytics journey, right? For example, if I tell you that, hey, Rajesh, somebody went to your cabin and came out with laptop, just a data. But if I tell you, Rajesh, some male person went to your cabin, he was there 15 minutes and he came back with your laptop. So you have more insights, right? So when we collect data, we should be ensuring that we have right data points, right? The data should be usable for everyone. It should be having all the right formats. If I give you a trend analysis for last 3 years of schedule adherence, it's of no use today. The data should have integrity. I mean, we have to ensure that the data is complete and correct. And ultimately, the data should be known to everyone, right? From your team members to your senior management should have access to the data, and that should know that what's the data source coming from, and ultimately the action items that the data should give you some tangible actionables which performs or improves your metrics. I think that's my insight, 2 cents from data analytics perspective. Thank you.
That's a fantastic reference to pick up, Uday. And what you mean actually is segregate the junk data from the usable and actionable data, and that's a real learning how we use data analytics and how we use the data that we have with us for the customers. Final industry specific question to Ankit. In the insurance industry, which is driven by trust and transparency, these are fundamental two traits that we need to exhibit to the customer for them to perceive. How do you employ data analytics here to build stronger relationship, particularly in terms of the trait that we talked about? That's the transparency and trust. How do you build trust and transparency with the help of data analytics is the question. And how do you improve their experience, particularly when it comes to critical moments like claim, when someone is really unwell, going through a tough time at hospital, or otherwise into the accident. Anyway, yeah, Ankit, over to you.
Thanks for that question. I hope I'm audible. I hope I'm audible. Okay. So thanks for that question. And I like to answer this in 2 ways. First, I'll just like to club both the things that you said, right? And I would like to answer first directly from a insurance standpoint, and secondly, I'll give one personal example, not from insurance, but a great example which will resonate to this entire theme. Now, when you talk about the entire trust, you're absolutely right. For an insurance company, trust is something that it's a myth in the market that the insurance companies do not pay claims, right? But the truth is, the job of an insurance company is to pay claims. That's the core job. There is no other job, right? Now, how do you really, build trust around that? And the only way to do that is when there is a need, you need to be there to care, right? And that's why I'm clubbing both the things into one, because you talked about claims, because that's the moment of truth when you really talk about an insurance company. Now, let me just give you an example that how we actually did in one of the instances. Now, if you look at motor insurance, okay. Now, there were times, in motor insurance, if somebody has met with an accident, okay, the person needs to register a claim. Then the towing vehicle will come and tow the vehicle and take it to the garage. Okay. From there, the garage will do the initial inspection and inform the insurance company. The insurance company will depute a surveyor. Surveyor will physically go, inspect, do negotiations, right, and arrive at a final estimate to be approved. That is submitted to certain tables in the hierarchy. And after that, it gets approved. And then the work will start, to get that entire repair work done. And then there will be a final inspection of the vehicle, and then you close that particular instance. Now, if you really look at, you won't be able to win trust here, right? Because so much of bureaucracy, right? Now, how we actually went, of resolving this, right? When we look at data, okay, we were there when we actually initiated this particular instance. We had the data of claims for roughly 2 decades, which means that for the last 20 years, what all claims we have paid, not paid, that is one set of data. The other set of data is available in the market, right? Which is the third party data relating to, for example, a vehicle, make, model, this particular part, what is the current cost, what is the labor cost and all those things. So you have, your internal data and you have your external data, right? When you combine both of that, okay, and then you put this data onto a data lake because you need to kind of scale it up and deploy AI onto it, okay? The result that you get is, from a customer standpoint, if you met with an accident, you just need to click certain photographs, upload it through the app, and within minutes, you get a decision that for this particular damage, we are ready to pay, let's say, 25,000 rupees. It's up to the customer, obviously, to accept that offer or not. If the customer chooses to accept that offer, immediately using the payment systems in India, you immediately transfer that money to the customer's account. End of the story. Right? Now it's up to the customer to take that vehicle to whichever garage the customer wants to take, get the repair done, not done. But the whole thing is that here you are actually telling the customer that I'm ready to pay, which is that great myth that I just spoke about, that the insurance company does not want to pay. Here we are reversing it and saying that, hey, I want to pay, right? And here is my offer, right? And right there, where this particular instance has happened, I'm right there with you to help you out, right? So that's how we kind of, in one of the examples, we have made use of the entire data analytics to actually drive that value to the customer.
Basically, you have transferred the decision making from yourself to the customer directly. You have made him the in charge of the situation.
Yeah, of course, at the back end,
Right.
all those algorithm.
That's
Because if
fantastic.
you really look at, we talk about data security and we talk about consent and all, okay? Now, if as a customer, some data of mine is taken by an X company, and if I'm getting some value out of it, I'll be okay. If I don't get a value for myself, then there is a problem. And here is my second example, that I spoke earlier. It's a very personal example, okay? It's for an airline, okay? So, sometime back, I was coming back to India from a country, and the flight got delayed. Okay, so typically what happens? If a flight is delayed, the SOP is, after a certain point in time, you get a dabba, right? You get a dabba with maybe a juice or something, some muffin, some sandwich, maybe a fruit, whatever, right? That's the SOP, typically. Now this airline actually went much ahead, okay? And in this bad experience, in a way, right? Because the flight has got delayed. I'll be late, arriving in my country. They created it as a wow experience for me. How they actually went ahead. So I was there at the airport, and somebody from the airline walked up to me, recognizing me, that, good evening, Mr. Goenka. We are extremely apologetic for this delay, but this was beyond our operational control, right? However, we understand that when you are on board, you really like this drink. So why don't you enjoy this drink by the time you wait for us to onboard you? So I was completely amazed. It's just a small drink, right? But then I actually analyzed, because I had that time to really think that how actually they made this happen. Somebody at the upstream did the right data capture. My consent or no consent, I don't care in this scenario, because I got the value, right? So somebody did that right data capture, that this particular passenger, every time, on board, he basically asked for this drink only, right? So somebody did that good job.
Personalization.
Right? Then after that, somebody actually created that entire scenario, or thought of that scenario, that in case the flight gets delayed, this is the SOP to be followed. And from a technology standpoint, you basically send an alert to the airport staff at that particular airport. They didn't end that. They ensured that there is a human to actually deliver that. And they had the entire whereabouts of that particular drink to be made available at that point in time. So they actually stitch end to end, right from the data entry to some bit of technology to the human angle to it, and created that entire bad experience into a wow experience. Right? I'm a diehard loyal fan of this airline now. Even if I have to pay anything extra, if I'm coming or going to that country, I will do that. Right?
That's superb. Ankit, you have actually let's give a clap to the wonderful answer. Yeah. And Ankit, you have actually answered my next question, which was about throw open to the group itself. We know data can be vast, complex, and coming from all directions. For all industries, it's true for all industries. So the question is to any one of you, any of the panelists, you can answer. How do you decide which data metric to be used? And I'm extending this question to, what do you think? What are the customer metric that you think is underrated, which data has now come out with? And how do you plan to use the same or take that particular metric to upside?
Let me give you some example here. Okay, talked about data metric and how do you really use that data and all. Whenever we look at the voice of the customer, we today we talk about a lot of sentiment analysis. We talk about analysis when the customer is reaching out to you. What is the customer saying? If there is a complaint, you kind of analyze that. All those jing bang today's world that we have. Typically, we look at the stated need of the customer when we look at this kind of a data, the voice of the customer. Okay, and I believe the voice of the customer data is the best data to look at for anything and everything. Okay. And when you look at the stated need only, that's the biggest mistake. Right? Because for the stated need, the customer is paying you. For example, for an insurance company, as I said, the customer is paying me for getting a claim in case there is an incident, right? Now that's a stated need, that in case, God forbid, there is a scenario where I need to claim, please make sure that the claim process is smooth, seamless, flexible, right? And I get my money, right? That's the stated need. You actually don't need any data analysis to tell you that, right? So you really don't need any data analysis to tell you the core of your business, right? But typically we tend to find those answers in the data. What you need to really look at is the unstated need. Just to give an example, when you talk about health insurance, okay, the stated need for a health insurance when somebody is getting admitted in the hospital is that please make sure that the billing process, the initial approval, the final billing is smooth and I quickly get discharged and I get the money. That's the basic thing that any consumer of health insurance today wants. Okay? Now that's the job. When we look at the data and we realize that in this entire episode, what is the unstated need? The unstated need in this incident is the attendant, the experience of that attendant. Because the customer who's the patient, he's actually not going through any experience. He or she is getting the treatment done, right? So he or she is not getting the experience of the insurance company. It is that attendant who's kind of running here and there, TPA desk to doctor, getting the signatures done, checking the bill and all those stuff, and then, ensuring that, okay, everything else is there. So we said, what can we do for this attendant? And there we said that let's deploy a care angel. Okay, these are our physical, human beings of our company deployed at major hospitals, today covering around 60% of the cashless claims across India. The simple job of this care angel is he or she meets the attendant and says, you take care of the patient and I'll take care of the rest. And it's not only about the billing, or the insurance approval. In some of the hospitals, the IPD to OPD getting a CT scan done is a nightmare. Okay, so this guy also coordinates that. Okay, in fact, yesterday I was there is in one of the hospitals in Mumbai, and I met this customer of ours. Okay, I went to this room, and he actually came from Bihar for a treatment here. So surgery went well, everything was fine. He was kind of recovering. I just realized at that point in time that I didn't saw any of the attendant with him. So I just inquired that you come from Bihar, it was a major surgery. You've come alone, right? So he said that, sir, actually क्या हुआ कि मेरा भाई आया था मेरे साथ, बट आपका एक एयर एंजल मेरे साथ है, तो मैंने अपने भाई को बोला जा तू बॉम्बे घूम के आ. I was floored. I mean, this is the kind of that experience, right? And now this particular customer, an attendant, and they will talk to multiple people. Everybody would want to be there with Bajaj Allianz, right? Because of this simple thing of that care angel being there.
That's going above and
Yeah, and that basically came from the data only, right? Because when we actually analyzed and looked at that unstated, we found that it is the attendant who's actually complaining or saying that I have an issue and all those stuff, right? So go deep into the data, look out for the unstated need. I guess for that, you will create experiences. For the stated needs, you will just going to resolve the issue.
would like to add to this?
Hi. So continuing to what Ankit said, it is very important that from where the data is collected and which data you need to analyze. Data is in abundance. There are multiple touch points today when a consumer gets in touch with the organizations. As I mentioned previously, it could be a pre-purchase, during the purchase, post-purchase, end of life. And with this e-waste regulations coming up, whether the scrapping the product is easy or not. So where to collect is very important, and which data you need to analyze. So you need to, map it along with your organizational goal. What is my organizational goal? As mentioned by Ankit,
and what outcome you want also.
Data. Yes, exactly. So, you may have been collecting a lot of data. The data analytic tools have been running. Sentiment analysis has been running. But whether it is aligning what your organization wants it. So, whether your organization wants to upsell to that particular customer, whether your organization wants a better ARPU from that customer or a bigger lifetime value. So, I believe on that what sort of data you need to analyze, and it has to be very narrowed down to the core. Exactly as mentioned, that the attendant gets suffer. So when we at Panasonic work, we work a lot on what the experience an engineer gives or provides at the customer place. While calling at the contact center, we may have given IVRs or AI-enabled chatbots or everything. But if a technician who walks in the house having a tobacco in his mouth with his slippers on, it spoils the entire experience which you would have done at the touch point 1 of service request registration. So it's a touch point where you need to define. Then the technician comes up with very unique data. Customer has 5 rooms with only 2 having air conditioners. So now you have got a data that whether our aircon team can push aircon to that particular customer. So this was a service request which we received, but then a data we captured that there are still 3 rooms which doesn't have aircon. Now third thing is you mentioned that what are the underrated matrices? So I feel customer effort score, CES as we call, is one of the most underrated one. We talk about CSAT, we talk about NPS, we talk about TAT, we talk about SLA, but CES, I'll share a real example. Some 4 or 5 days back, I'll not name the organization on the podium, but my broadband went off. It took me as a customer service individual 14 minutes to reach to an agent. Despite me being, architect of several flows, I have designed several flows, I know how it works, but it took me such a long time to reach to the agent. So the effort which I took post, once the service request is registered, the technician came in immediately, it got resolved. But what is the effort I have taken to reach to that agent or to register my service request? Because the predefined chatbots were not having the issue which I was facing. Right. So CS is one of the very important metrics which is underrated. I think it should be emphasized upon like anything.
Yeah.
In fact, today morning, the point that you made about the broadband, I actually faced, I was here in the hotel and, my home broadband went off. I was obviously not aware. but that broadband company informed me proactively.
Yeah.
That broadband company created an SR, service request, on its own, realizing that yes, there is a broadband issue in my connection. They basically then assign a physical engineer on their own. So I'd like to mention about the customer effort score. I mean, I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Right? That broadband company did everything, right? And by the time I kind of could have checked with my wife that, okay, what's happened, I realized that I get that notification in that MyGate app that this particular engineer is waiting for an entry approval. That guy was already there to help, right? And by the time I could do anything,
Yeah.
that issue was resolved.
Yeah.
I mean, those are those, proactive measures that you can do.
Great to hear this. So what we all are saying is customer experience that we talk about in our daily lives as a customer service professionals is basically it comes from reducing the customer effort. The example of care angels that you took, or the broadband example, or for that matter, it's all about to reduce the customer effort. And the C is, no doubt, CE is going to be the next metric that we are all going to talk about here across the room, here outside the room. And that brings to the end of the panel discussion on use of analytics in the area of customer service and experience. Thanks panelists. Thanks for such a wonderful insights, and thanks the audience for wonderful listening. Thank you.